Yen arrived at the address given by the woman on the phone. She entered the building and made her way to the 23rd floor. During the elevator ride, she couldn't help but wonder why Su Qingbo, a student from the university town, was working so far in the city center. Upon reaching the 23rd floor, she knocked on the door. A woman with blonde hair opened it, dressed stylishly in a skin-colored top and black skirt. The woman wasted no time and immediately addressed Yen. "Miss Yen, you're finally here. I ordered some food for delivery, but my phone disappeared before I could even eat. I called my phone, and I heard it ringing from your student's bag. What's going on?" Su Qingbo, seated on a sofa, vehemently protested, "Miss Yen, I swear I didn't steal the phone. I don't know how it ended up in my bag." Yen offered her apologies and tried to mediate the situation. She vouched for Su Qingbo's character, emphasizing that he had always been well-behaved. However, the blonde woman was obstinate and accused him of being a repeat offender. Su Qingbo stood up, embarrassment evident on his face. He accused the blonde woman of trying to seduce him and then framing him. The woman cut him off with an angry retort, escalating their confrontation. In the midst of the heated exchange, the door opened, and Mr. Fu entered the room. His presence commanded attention, and Yan's gaze inadvertently locked onto his. Everyone's focus shifted to Mr. Fu as he calmly addressed the situation. Mr. Fu's gaze shifted from the blonde woman to Yen. "Miss Yen, is this your student?" he asked, taking a seat on the sofa. Yen affirmed, her eyes reflecting her concern. She vouched for Su Qingbo's character once more, asserting that he was classmates with Yujia and wasn't the type to steal. Mr. Fu's eyes lingered on her for a moment before he turned to the others in the room. With conviction, Mr. Fu declared, "I trust Miss Yan's judgment. Since he's her student, I'll let you take him back." Yen bowed in gratitude, her respect for Mr. Fu growing. She wasted no time and guided Su Qingbo out of the room. As they waited for the elevator, Mr. Fu approached Yen once more. "Miss Yen, if you're free tomorrow evening, would you consider having a meal with me?" Yen felt her cheeks warm up. She looked back at Mr. Fu with an awkward smile and replied, "Sure, as a way of showing my gratitude, I'd be happy to treat you." Mr. Fu's smile widened. "Am I really that intimidating to you, Miss Yen? It's just a meal. Actually, I wanted to discuss something about Yujia with you." Yen's attempt to stay composed faltered, but she managed to reply with a polite smile. "However, my husband is a bit possessive, and he's not comfortable with me dining alone with men. How about this? I'll treat you instead." She hurriedly entered the elevator, holding onto Su Qingbo's hand. Before the doors closed, Mr. Fu leaned against the doorframe and playfully made a call gesture with his hand. "Okay then, I'll wait for your call." After dropping Su Qingbo off at his house, Yen couldn't shake off the unsettling feeling from earlier. She reassured Su Qingbo and promised to support him in his studies. He expressed his admiration for her and her kindness, which made her chuckle. As she returned home, she found Yuan's luggage packed and inquired about his upcoming business trip. Yuan revealed he had to travel to YZ country the next morning for work. Though Yen felt a twinge of disappointment at his sudden departure, they decided to turn in for the night. The following day, Yan's curiosity about Mr. Fu led her to search online for information about Fu Group and Fu Xingxing. Surprisingly, she found very little, not even a single picture. Unable to reach Officer Chen, she dialed Mr. Fu's number, arranging to meet at a restaurant near the school's west gate. The restaurant was bustling with students, which gave Yen a sense of comfort. She spotted Mr. Fu at a table, looking as suave as ever. "Miss Yen, please take a seat. I've already ordered, and I hope you'll like it," Mr. Fu greeted her warmly. Yen settled into her chair and smiled appreciatively. "You're too kind, Mr. Fu. It's my pleasure to treat you." They sat facing each other, a brief but palpable silence enveloping them. Yan's curiosity grew, and just as she was about to break the silence, Mr. Fu leaned in, his gaze steady. Yen cautiously took a bite of her food as Mr. Fu observed her with a smile. Picking up his wine glass, he broke the silence, his voice calm yet inquisitive. "May I ask why you seem so afraid of me?" "It's more than just a misunderstanding, there's a deep fear in your eyes." Putting down his glass, he leaned forward, intrigued by Yan's response. She used a tissue to wipe her mouth, her gaze averted. With a vulnerable tone, she confessed, "A few years ago, I encountered some criminals who looked exactly like you. It left a lasting trauma, and seeing you brought back those memories. I'm sorry if I've been acting odd." Mr. Fu's lips curled into a smirk. "If that's the case, then I should apologize for unintentionally frightening you." Yen sighed with relief, her nervousness easing a bit. "Thank you for understanding. The incident affected me deeply. Even though I'm married now and life is good, the nightmares still come back sometimes." Mr. Fu's gaze softened, and he nodded empathetically. I can see that your life is blissful now. Your students admire you, your career is successful. But as the eldest son of the Fu group, I have my responsibilities. It's a different kind of life. Yan appreciated his candor, acknowledging his achievements. He suddenly stood up, his eyes reflecting a mixture of melancholy and yearning. Do you ever feel like this city is a cunning creature? It sleeps during the day and wakes up at night, luring you with its lights. And just when you let your guard down, it swallows you whole, trapping you in its darkness. Yen felt a chill down her spine as his words took a dark turn. She tried to dismiss her unease with a smile and said, "It's getting warm in here," glancing at her phone for the time. Fu moved to the window, the city lights casting an enigmatic glow on his face. "It's been interesting talking with you, Miss Yen." Yen mustered a polite smile. "Thank you, Mr. Fu. Did you meet me just to flatter me?" Fu chuckled softly. "I got carried away in our conversation. But my main purpose was to express my gratitude from before." He approached her, holding a gift. Yen hesitated, but Fu gently placed the gift on the table. "Please accept it. It's a small token of appreciation." He returned to his seat, his eyes locked onto hers. After a brief exchange, Yen unwrapped the gift, revealing a picture inside. Shock and horror washed over her as she recognized the image. It was the man she had stabbed and killed years ago. A scream escaped her lips, and she flung the box away. Trembling, she fell to the ground, her world spinning. Desperation overtook Yen as she tried to stand, but dizziness consumed her. Fu maintained his calm demeanor, even as Yan's cries for help grew fainter. Darkness enveloped her, and she succumbed to unconsciousness. When Yen woke up, it was much later than expected. Yuan greeted her, but her initial relief turned to fear as she stared at Fu. "Are you human or a ghost?" Fu's lips curled into a wicked smile. "Even someone as smart and brave as you can ask such an obvious question, Miss Yen." Terror gripped Yen as she stammered, "What do you want? Are you here to kill me?" Fu laughed, the sound unsettling in the room. "Kill you? For years ago, you might have had that chance, but not now." "No way." Desperation consumed Yen, and she tried to reason with him. "Shenji Jia, can't we talk this out?" Calmly and rationally. Fu's demeanor shifted, his expression darkening. "What's there to discuss? That I should let you go, that you won't report this, that we should forget the past and start anew." As Yen observed the room, her gaze fell on a knife and a plan formed in her mind. Fu continued, his tone taunting, "Let's play a game, Miss Yen. I take a virtuous lady like you and turn you into a cheap and immoral woman. How entertaining would that be?" Fu snapped his fingers and 3 men entered in the room. Yan's heart raced, her breath hitching. In a desperate bid for survival, she seized the knife from a plate and brandished it toward the room's entrance. "Stay away from me." Fu regarded her with curiosity, seemingly intrigued by her desperation. "Interesting, let's see how you handle that." With the knife as her only defense, Yen prepared to face whatever sinister plan Fu had in store. The room felt like a suffocating trap as the 3 men closed in on her, their malicious intentions evident in their predatory expressions. "Stay away," she shrieked, the knife trembling in her grip as she pointed it toward them. Her voice trembled, a mixture of anger and terror intertwining as she struggled to hold on to the last shreds of her composure. But her warning seemed to have no effect on the advancing trio. With calculated precision, the man in the black t-shirt lunged forward, swiftly disarming her and twisting her wrists until the knife clattered to the floor. Another man, his long hair framing his sinister grin, moved in from behind, his hands finding purchase on her body, restraining her movements. A stifled cry escaped Yan's lips as she was forced onto the bed, her body trembling from the force of the slap that had landed across her cheek. She clutched the bedspread, feeling utterly defenseless and violated. Then, in a cruel twist of fate, the 3rd man approached, pressing a tablet against her lips and forcing her to swallow it. The bitter taste lingered, and she tried to spit it out, her breaths coming in ragged gasps. "No, please." Yan's voice cracked as tears blurred her vision. The room spun, the walls closing in on her as the effects of the tablet took hold. Through her blurred vision, she saw one of the men retrieving a camera. The realization of what was about to happen made her heart race even faster, her breaths coming in short, panicked bursts. A desperate plea escaped her lips, the weight of her vulnerability crushing her spirit. "Just, kill me." Her voice was barely a whisper, an anguished plea to end her torment. But Jia, the man orchestrating her nightmare, remained unmoved by her plea. His cold gaze seemed to pierce her very soul as he spoke, his words slicing through her like a blade. "I said I won't kill you." Yan's body felt like a puppet on strings, her spirit broken and defeated. The camera stopped recording, but the nightmare didn't end. Fu enters the room with phone in his hands. He stops in front of her. Show her a video and tell her to not call the cops or she knows what will happen. He tossed the phone aside, his gaze locked onto her with the cold determination of a predator. Jie's chilling smile sent shivers down Yan's spine as he leaned in, his finger pointing at her like a twisted accusation. The rules of the game, Miss Yan, you must answer whenever I call, or else. She watched as he settled onto the sofa, a self-satisfied grin etched onto his features. Capturing those images was quite the ordeal, don't you think? But I've grown tired of this game. Perhaps next time, I'll introduce you to my clients. They'd surely appreciate the company of a charming woman like you, Miss Yan. Stunned into silence, Yan's gaze remained locked on him, her mind grappling with the depths of his depravity. Just as the weight of his words threatened to crush her, a new figure entered the room, a tall man in a black suit whose presence seemed to exude an ominous aura. A grin crept across Jie's lips as he regarded the newcomer, his voice laced with chilling amusement. Jiang, my friend, it's getting late. Please escort Miss Yan home. Could this be her way out? She cast a wary glance at Jiang, her mind spinning with suspicion. Jiang's footsteps approached, his strong hand gripping her wrist as he led her towards the door. Panic surged within her, her heart racing as the world spun around her. But before she could react, a cloth covered her face, its sickly sweet scent overwhelming her senses. Her vision blurred, darkness closing in, and then everything faded to black. The feeble light of the sun crept through the curtains, rousing Yan from a fitful slumber. The room was thick with sorrow and despair, an inescapable weight pressing down on her. She sat up slowly, her gaze vacant, her thoughts consumed by the horrors she had endured. Her phone, a silent witness to her distress, displayed a series of missed calls from her husband, Yuan Zhe. With trembling fingers, she dialed his number, a glimmer of hope sparking within her. But the line rang endlessly, a haunting reminder of the chasm that had grown between them. As she donned the clothes from the previous night, she picked up the bag, its weight a tangible reminder of the darkness she carried with her. With a heavy heart, she left the house, each step echoing with the weight of her pain. Inside the taxi, her thoughts drifted to Officer Chen, the one person who might have helped. She arrived at the police station, desperation propelling her forward. But before she could cross the threshold, a lady officer intercepted her. Officer Chen. Yan's voice trembled as she sought answers, her heart pounding with dread. The officer's gaze fell, her words a crushing blow. I'm sorry. Officer Chen was in an accident last night. He didn't survive. Stunned disbelief washed over Yan, a torrent of shock and grief threatening to engulf her. The ground beneath her seemed to shift, her world imploding. The officer's explanation of a fatal car accident felt like a cruel twist of fate, a loss too unbearable to comprehend. As Yan staggered back, her mind raced through the sinister events that had transpired, each thread weaving a web of darkness that tightened around her. A horrifying realization dawned. Were all these pieces meticulously orchestrated, every turn, every torment? Standing at the precipice of understanding, Yan's mind churned with questions that seemed to have no answers. The walls of the police station closed in, a cruel reminder of the malevolent grip on her life. A shiver of fear coursed through her as she stepped outside, her thoughts echoing with each footfall. With a heavy heart, she walked away from the station, her reality shattered.